Time to roll to the hole. We rolling. Yeah. This is what we do and why we do it. And nobody does it any better than we do. It's your night, your fight, so get it right, baby.
All right, there it is. We're back for another week of BJPenn.com radio. As always, it's me, Pedro, and I'm with George Matthews, the man. What's up, George?
Not much, man. What's going on?
Not much. Let's just continue our discussion before we hopped on the air with what we were talking about, and that is the Bellator card pay-per-view cancellation because Tito Ortiz fractured his neck, I guess. So people who don't know, Tito Ortiz fractured his neck. He withdrew from the main event in Bellator's their card next weekend or whatever, next week, and that's where we're at today. They are stopping the pay-per-view. They're still going to put on the rest of the fights, but they're just going to put them for free on Spike TV. What happened, George? They didn't feel comfortable going pay-per-view without Rampage Jackson and Tito Ortiz. Is that what happened?
Yeah, or probably the opponents didn't make sense to put against Ramp because you're still gonna have to pay Rampage the money you promised him, and you're gonna have to put it for free against an opponent that. Probably it would have been, Tito was a far stretches opponent, so you had to go below that, and that you'd have been reaching pretty far at that point.
Yep, I'm really bummed, man, because even though that fight means nothing in like the landscape of MMA and as far as contenders and everything like that goes, top 10 ramifications or what have you, but I was interested to see that fight. I'm still going to go to the fights. But very disappointed that Tito and Rampage won't be thrown down in the main.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a fight. It didn't have any bearing on rankings, divisions, titles, or anything of that nature. It was just a fight. I hadn't heard any clamoring for it, and based on ticket sales, I don't think that there was. Much of the public was clamoring for it either, but regardless of that, either way, it's not going on. The fight's not going to happen now, and I kind of said from the beginning that this card should have been on Spike TV for free anyway. Even with Tito and Rampage, that I would have put that card for free. I think that it was there was no point of trying to jump into pay-per-view with that card. I would have given that card for free to promote another card on pay-per-view. So, I guess that's back to where they're at now, and Alvarez and Chandler is the main event, and the rightful main event, really.
Yeah, true, the rightful main event. And again, I'm still going to the fights. It'll still be a good night of fights, I'm sure, in Long Beach. But that sucks. Anyways, outside of Bellator, there's much more to talk about. First of all, for people tuning in right now, we have a really good list of guests tonight. We have Sergio Pettis, we have Anthony Pettis, we have Joey Beltran, we have Hector Lombard, and we have KJ Nunes. So we have 5 guests, 5 UFC fighters tonight, and they're all either preparing for fights or just coming off a fight, with the exception of Joey, who was released by the UFC. I think that was announced yesterday or the day before yesterday, something like that. So we'll get his take on all that.
Yeah. I mean, there's, I think Dana was talking about cuts the other day when he said, they're going to happen, and you kind of have to, you're gonna have to deal with it, when you have to make room for the guys that are coming up and trying to get their shots. And it doesn't mean that it's the last we'll see of Joey in the UFC. He fought his way back in once, so I wouldn't put it past him to fight his way right back in.
Yep. What did you think? Let's talk about, right now we have about 10 minutes before we get Sergio on the line. So let's talk about UFC 166 last weekend. People are calling it the best full night of fights in the promotion's history, or maybe even in MMA history, but definitely in UFC history. On top of that, they're also saying that Gilbert Melendez versus Diego Sanchez may have very well been the very best fight in MMA history. There's a lot of good fights. That's a tall order to fill, but it was a very good fight. I don't know that it was the best in history, but it was very, very good, and it was definitely up there. What do you think, George?
It was one of the fight itself was one of the best fights I've ever seen. It's up there. It definitely sticks. If somebody were to ask me what are the best fights you've ever seen, it's going to be the one that it's going to be one of the ones I rattle off, without question. Um, the card itself was single-handedly probably the best UFC card I've ever seen.
From start to finish. I mean,
Yeah.
I was really excited. I think last week I touched on it a little bit, how excited I was for this fight. I usually don't engulf myself in the primetime shows and the countdowns and all the fighter interviews. I mean, I catch some of them, but I'm not like glued to all the pre-fight hype like I used to be many years ago. But for this fight, I was. I was completely glued to every word every fighter said. I tuned in for the very first prelim fight that we put up on bjpen.com all the way to the main event, and they were all freaking awesome. Like start to finish, knockout submissions, everybody's finishing, everybody's putting on a show. It was flashy, it was exciting. It was just freaking, I mean, awesome. Just an awesome night of fights.
If the only thing with Gilbert and Diego is that um when I like some of the fights that stick out for me personally that stick out in my head that I'm like, oh, that was my favorite fight, is because there was a lot of backstory to the fight. There was a title on the line. A good example would be Lesnar and Mir, the second fight. There was just a lot of build up for the fight. There was a title on the line, and it was kind of just the perfect storm. Kind of give you the perfect ingredients, really, for to telling a good story and giving you a good fight. Um, with that said, again, Melendez and Sanchez was an awesome fight, but it suffered a little bit only by the fact that there was really no build up on it. And like that's kind of what brings it away from. It's like a 4 3/4 star fight from bringing it to a 5-star fight to me is just like
It was missing the
putting
dramatics, like the pre-fight
yeah,
hype and the
the
story.
the title on the line, exactly the title on the line, and if it was 5 rounds, usually those main events for titles are 5-round fights. A lot of some of the really, really epic fights we've seen have been 5-round wars. The fight later on in the night was a 5-round, or it was a 4-round beatdown. We saw a 5-round beatdown with Jones and or 5-round fight with Jones and Gustafson. You know, like that fight to me sticks out as really, really epic because there was a title on the line. Because Jones is such a like dominant champion that is like looks unbeatable, and so there was just a lot of drama behind it, and I think that's the only thing that Melendez and Sanchez was lacking. Well, but the I was literally screaming at the TV, so it was pretty crazy. It was a pretty crazy fight.
Yeah, it was nuts, man. What I thought was insane about that fight was Diego's cut. That was huge. Their back and forth, so many back and forth, like Brian Stan, Vanderlei Silva type back and forth exchanges for 3 full rounds, pretty much is kind of the way I feel like it went down. It was very interesting when Diego was able to drop Gilbert in the third round. I thought that was a nice turn and made it a little bit more exciting at the end there. But one thing that was kind of concerning, I guess, was, and a lot of people I think have kind of made note of it online. I've been reading on the forums and what have you. Was Diego was kind of a little bit slurred speech after the fight. I don't know what that's about. Do you know what that could be attributed to, or did you even notice that?
I noticed it when he was talking, and
Yeah, it's kind of scary. It's
yeah,
like
it
you don't want to get
sounds
punch drunk, you know?
yeah, it does sound like he was again. He probably i these are things that probably will add up over time. I mean, you're getting hit in the head.
A lot,
It's,
like a
I,
lot, yeah.
I mean, the type of the action that was in there, and I don't know whether any of the fans listening or the fans that the current product will recollect this fight, but there's a fight from Pride with Takayama and Don Fry, and it very much resembled portions
Yeah, yeah.
of that very much resembled Takayama and Don
Just like
Fry,
rock'em sock'em robots, like
pretty much.
just yeah. Let's just hit each other in the face repeatedly. Your turn, my turn. Your turn, my turn. Let's see who falls. That's what it
Let's see
was.
who falls. Yeah, and let me tell you something. If that fight went 2 more rounds, Gilbert was about to fall.
Yeah, he
So
was. He was getting tired, right? He was getting fatigued. He got dropped in the third, and Diego just kept putting that pace down. Like, you know what, dude? Keep hitting me. I'm gonna keep hitting you. It was insane. It was
yeah,
nuts.
yeah. Diego, I'll tell you what. When I let when I mean, I respect everybody as a fighter, but I Diego really, really earned my respect
Yeah,
after that fight. I
and,
mean, he really is a warrior.
yeah. And if you remember last week, I did pick him to win, so I was wrong there. But it's entertaining.
I mean, I I know I picked Gilbert, but you know, in the scheme of things, if that fight went, even probably 2 or 3 minutes longer, you were probably gonna be correct with your prediction.
Yeah, the main event was pretty good too. That was the other fight I got wrong. I think I called all the other fights right, but I got that one wrong. I picked Junior Dos Santos, but Kane beat him pretty handedly. It was a pretty intense fight, though. Had me on the edge of my seat a few times. Kane got almost dropped, like right at the first punch of the fight. That was nuts and scary. He didn't have as easy a time with Junior as he did in the last fight. Obviously, he didn't really wasn't too successful with takedowns, but he beat him up, man. Beat him up in the clinch most of the fight.
I thought he actually had an easier time with him this time. I thought it was a it was a beat down this time. Like last time, Junior was still there. Like Junior was still there last time. Like Junior was out of it this time. I mean,
True.
he got destroyed. I mean, he
They
got destroyed.
And the reports are that he thought that he for those who didn't watch it or maybe those who don't know what happened, which I can't really fathom that. Cain Velasquez defended his title last weekend, right? And it was deemed a TKO stoppage in the fifth round, so he didn't go to a judge's scorecards. But Junior Dos Santos, even though he got stopped in the fifth, after the fight he was so out on his feet that he thought it was stopped in the second round, which is pretty incredible. He was going for what, basically 3 rounds just off heart. Not really
Yeah,
there.
just sitting there on autopilot, literally not knowing, what round it is, what the time is, or whatever. You know, it went exactly how I thought it was going to go. Like last week, as I was saying, you know, Kane was going to be better this time around. Like Kane fought him last time, came off of a layoff, came off some surgery. This time he was going to have had a couple of camps under his belt, and he's going to be better. He's just simply going to be better. And the one thing that really stuck out to me was the fact that it really looks like Junior needs us to either bring in some different guys or go to a different camp.
Yeah, he's very talented, very athletic, obviously very powerful punches, but maybe he does need to switch things up in training. I mean, he does train a lot out here in Orange County. I mean, I see him all the time. I mean, from down at the arena in San Diego, I've seen him down there. I've seen him at Munoz's gym. He trains at Black House, so he does get different looks. But it seemed like maybe not for this fight, at least. I mean, he kept it. I mean, based off what you see on the primetime show, he kept it local. So
I think that the majority of his training goes on in Brazil, though, like when he does his
yeah.
camps.
Hmm.
And I don't think that it's not. This is not to say that you can't get good training in Brazil. That's absolute nonsense. But there are certain camps that are known to have to congregate and bring all those good sparring partners together. Um, the specific camp that comes to mind for me is one that breeds a lot of the lightweight fighters, featherweight fighters, and bantamweight fighters, and that's Novo União. And you know, I figured that for a camp like this, for a fight that was as important as this one, um, that he would probably ramp things up. there's only so many good teams in MMA. There's a lot of teams out there, but there's only so many, really, really true elite ones. And when there's obviously you hear of Jackson's, you hear of American Kickboxing Academy, American Top Team, Novu Unyao, we mentioned them. There's Pitt. There's many of them. But getting all the right type of training in to put a camp together for a title fight of that magnitude is, probably requires you to take things to a totally different level. And Kane has been doing that the entire time with someone like Daniel Cormier and that whole AKA family behind him, and the teams that put that kind of infrastructure behind them are the ones that are going to be really successful.
I agree.
You know, you've you've got the, you've got teams out there that there's certain guys out there that will just bring people in for their camps or whatever it is, and again that works too, but that requires you to be selfish, And Junior looks like he's the exact opposite in his community and with the way he does his career and things like that. So, I think I think that he's been very comfortable at home and that works for him. But it may not work. It may not work for trying to really get to that elite level and get that belt.
Well, you're right, and maybe we can get our next guest, or our first guest rather, his opinion on that very subject. We have him right now on the line. He's one of the UFC's newest and brightest stars, set to make his debut at UFC 167, I believe, against Vaughn Lee. He has a very famous older brother, but not to be overshadowed by his lightweight champion brother. It's him. He's his own man. His name is Sergio Pettis. What's up, Sergio?
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Doing good. Thanks for coming on tonight, man.
No, man. Thank you guys for having me on the show, actually.
All right, perfect. Well, what we were just talking about was last weekend's UFC 166 main event between Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos. I'm sure you saw the fight. What did you think about that?
Very entertaining card. I mean, that UFC was there. I mean, from the first fight to the last fight, one of the best cards UFC put on in a long time. I was very entertained, and I think it opened a lot of eyes. I mean, especially guys like myself making my debut. I have to come in there and I have to perform. That's just the bottom line.
What did you think about the main event in particular between Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez? What we were just talking about was maybe Junior Dos Santos could do himself some good by getting some other looks and kind of building a team around him or going to one of these super camps and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? Cain Velasquez, like myself, is Mexican and Hispanic. I'm Mexican and Puerto Rican, so seeing that and seeing him win the way he did, it's in our blood. I mean, for us, we've been fighting since we were born. So I don't think Junior Dos Santos needs to change anything up. I mean, Cain's just that good. I mean, you can't beat a guy in his prime if he's just that good. Cain just knows how to win fights. He comes from a great camp. He has great training partners like myself. Training with my brother, training with Eric Cope, a lot of guys in the UFC. It just makes me that much better. So, Cain's doing what he needs to do to stay the champ, and Junior Dos Santos is one of the best in the world, and I think he'll be back, for another title shot.
All right, right on. Now let's talk about you. You're recently signed to the UFC. You're making your debut in a couple, not too far away now, UFC 167. How's that feel? Because that's obviously been a goal of yours. You've been going through the ranks on the regional circuit, and now you got your moment of shine coming up.
Yeah, you know what? This isn't going to be my first moment of shine. I've been preparing this for my whole life. I've been getting ready for the UFC since my older brother got in the UFC, even the WEC. I mean, since I was a kid, all I could think about is fighting the UFC. It's not about one-time shine. I definitely have to impress in my first fight. But I'm looking past that. I mean, I'm looking forward to getting to these title contention fights. Making my name for myself. I want to get out of the shadow of my older brother and make my name for myself. Sergio Pettis is definitely coming on the scene this month.
Okay, now they didn't really give you a gimme fight in your debut. Von Lee's a pretty solid fighter, and that's who you're going to debut against. Give me your thoughts on him as an opponent, man.
Honestly, Von Lee, Bruce Lee, I don't care. I'm ready to fight. I've been in here grinding. I mean, I've been grinding for a long time. I was training at 13 years old, training with Pat Barry, Anthony Pettis. I mean, all the guys in the UFC that are doing good right now. I mean, I've been training with these guys since I was a kid, so I'm ready to go. I'm amped up, as you can tell, and I wish the fight was next weekend.
All right. Is there now? Tell me what's going on with your weight class. I know you're going to take this fight at bantamweight, but I also know that you have taken fights at flyweight as well. Is bantamweight where you're going to stay, or do you have any ambitions of maybe going down to flyweight, because that division does need the help in the UFC? They need some star power. They need some good guys down there.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like I can make my name better in the bantamweight. You know, I'm 20 years old. I've been cutting weight for a while, but now I'm growing and I'm putting muscle on. I'm feeling stronger at 135. So I mean, why cut down to 125 when I can make my name in a division that's already established? So I just feel like 135 is my division. I'm growing. I'm 20 years old, and I feel like I'm gonna open some eyes up next month, and I'll make some waves at this title shot in the next 2 years.
So I wanted to ask you, I mean, obviously getting to the UFC was the goal. You know, you could fight alongside your brother, hopefully get on the same card together. You know, when you finally
the UFC wasn't the goal. My goal is to become the champ, just like my brother is. My goal is to become the champ. I mean, I'm not in this to be a contender. I'm not in this to be number two. When we both started this, we both told each other we're going to be the best in the world. I mean, we're going to be the best brothers in mixed martial arts, and I'm not going to let my brother down.
Well, I guess more of a short-term goal, I guess then. But when you finally got the UFC contract, what was the feeling like that when you were finally like signing that deal? You're like, yeah, here it's finally beginning, because obviously it's not now it's really going to begin. You know, the journey really starts now.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I couldn't have a better year for the Pettis brothers. I mean, my brother just won the UFC title. I get my shot at the UFC, so it's gonna be an amazing year. I mean, he's fighting again. I get to make my debut, and I think a lot of people are gonna know who Anthony Pettis and Sergio Pettis are.
So Anthony's backstory as far as his martial arts background is it's been told a few times. You know, everyone talks about his background in Taekwondo, and we all grown to see how talented he is in mixed martial arts and in every facet of the game. But when exactly did you start dabbling in training? Like, what is your first recollection of training?
I started Taekwondo when I was 3 years old. I mean, before I remember even walking, I mean, I remember Taekwondo. I mean, it's been in our lives forever. Traditional martial arts is something that I think both of us credit to getting us through, losing our father at a young age. I mean, without Taekwondo, we wouldn't be here in this position. I mean, no one would know who I am, let alone my brother is. So Taekwondo is a memory that I have since walking. I mean, it's just something that's been in our lives forever.
So as you watched your brother, when you watched your brother kind of going through the ranks, getting into the WEC and then making it to the UFC, and obviously you started fighting, over the last few years, but is this something that you were always like thinking on the back burner while you were training in the gym with guys like Pat Barry and with your brother? Were you always thinking like, yeah, I'm going to be there soon too. I'm following you there. Or was it something that you just kind of decided a little bit later on after you'd been training for a bit?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, I kind of knew as a kid that's something I wanted to do. I mean, you always want to be like your older brother, and my brother being a champion, that's something I want to be like. I mean, I want to go ahead and be a champion, and hopefully make my own name in MMA. But as I was growing up, it was a little bit of both, because in Milwaukee we didn't have that much shine in mixed martial arts. There wasn't like a big circuit of MMA fighters or guys that were at the top league like there is now. So, I think my brother definitely is one of the pioneers of the sport, and, me following his footsteps, I think I'm going to be able to bring, I guess, a way out of the ghetto or the hood for people that are looking up to us. I mean, I'm only 20 years old, just starting with the UFC. I have a lot of opportunity to make a lot of changes, not only in my own life, but in a lot of other people's lives. And there's kids that are looking up to my older brother and myself, and they're looking at us as a way out of what we grew up in.
Yeah, it's definitely a positive way of looking at it and a good way of looking at it. You brought up something else about how you obviously are following in your brother's footsteps, and it's somebody you look up to. But I know I come from a family. I have four sisters, and I know that we all get along now. But I know that we used to be at each other's throats when we were growing up. And do you guys have any memories of that, or has it always been kind of you know? You guys were any fighting going on when you guys are growing up, bickering and you know, kind of getting at each other a little bit, or no?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember growing up. We were a very competitive family. I think my father put that into us. So, everything was a competition. I mean, no matter what we were doing, we were competing. So, coming from a family of two older brothers, I was the guy that had to step up and make his name. So, we fought a lot as kids. I mean, I think until we lost our father, we were very competitive. And then when we lost our dad, we became very, very close. I mean, that's what brought us to our relationship we're at now. And it's kind of one of those things. It's a tragic moment, but it really brought our family close together. It made me change the way I look at life.
Do you guys remember getting in a lot of trouble together when you were younger? Like, was that a problem? You guys always causing a lot of trouble around the house together and things like that, or what?
Anthony's 6 years older than me, so he was kind of on his own thing. He was kind of the rebel of the family. Me and my older brother were kind of the guys that we stayed at home. We were just more relaxed. In the taekwondo, in the basketball. We didn't really cause the trouble Anthony caused. I think Anthony is more of one of the guys that steps out on the limb and lives life the way he feels like he should be lived.
Yeah, I didn't know who would be the most likely of the brothers to, you know, steal your mom's car and go for a joyride when you were 12 or something like that. Because that's
No, I mean
sometimes.
we would never do anything to my mom. My mom was like the rock of our family, man. Even still now, I mean, you can ask my brother. If my mom says, go clean our rooms, we're gonna go clean our rooms, even at our age as we are now.
That's awesome, man. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's compare you and your brother to some other brothers in MMA. Obviously, it's your goal to be the best brother fighting duo in history. I know that both of you guys are very confident young men. So we have guys like the Miller brothers, right? And then we have guys like the Diaz brothers. Where do you see you guys fitting in that whole scheme of things with the brother fighters? The Nogueira brothers are another one.
Honestly, you know what? There's a lot of great brothers in mixed martial arts, but I mean, we're the youngest guys to hit the scene. I mean, we have the world, in front of us right now. We can make our names bigger than all these guys. It just all depends on how focused we stayed and how much we can perform in the octagon. I respect everybody that can do the sport, especially brothers doing the sport. Me being a younger brother, I have to look up to my older brother, so I'm not getting any gimme fights. So everybody that fights me is thinking about my brother. I mean, they can make their name off of me by saying, I beat a Pettis. So I respect all the brothers, and I think, only time can tell on how far the Pettis brothers will take the sport.
Now, one thing that I think that's glaringly obvious about you and Anthony both, man, is that the level of confidence that you have. And I know Anthony's a real confident guy, especially when he speaks out in the public. It could be taken as almost arrogance, but it's not arrogance at all. I think it's just confidence, and he kind of manifests all these positive things by being so confident, And now that I'm talking to you for the first time, you kind of seem like the exact same way. So is that real important to you? Obviously, like I said, you guys are super confident. So that's a huge, I guess, mental part of your game. Can you walk me through that whole thought process?
My brother has been coaching me honestly since I started this thing. So I wouldn't say I'm not trying to be cocky. I'm not confident. It's just who we are. I mean, we've been through a lot as kids. We've been through a lot as martial artists. And now at this stage, if you're not confident, then you probably shouldn't be here. And that's what my brother tells me that every day. We don't think we're the best in the world, then why are we doing this job? I mean, we can go do something else and probably make as much money as fighting in the UFC or even close. I mean, so I mean, I wouldn't say we're cocky. I mean, some people can mistake it, like you said, as cockiness, but we're very confident because, I'm 20 years old, man. I sacrificed a lot to be where I'm at. I mean, I miss homecomings, I miss proms, I miss all the stuff that most high school kids go through. I didn't get a chance to do that because I was in the gym training.
Wow. That's pretty. That's a pretty good statement right there, man. It really shows your dedication to the sport. So, being that we know what your goal is to be the champion and that you won't settle for anything less, what is your time frame to accomplish that? Have you ever thought about that? Like, okay, I'm gonna enter the UFC this December, whatever. UFC 167 by UFC. 205. I want to be the champ, or what's the goal there? Because I mean, should it's good to have goals, I guess.
You know what? I have goals, but I don't put a time frame on them. I think if you put a time frame on them, you're setting yourself up for failure. I have goals, and I have a great team behind me. I let my coach, Duke Rufus, one of the best in the game right now. I mean, this guy is really a student of the game. I mean, I thought myself that, I put a lot into this. Duke Rufus sacrifices so much to be where he's at. That me and my brother, we just kind of just pay attention to him. Whatever he says, we kind of do, and it works. So we don't change anything up. So Duke Rufus has a time frame in his head. I don't ask him any questions. He's got me to the UFC. He's got my brother to the UFC lightweight champion. So when he feels his time is ready, I'll be ready.
All right. So I guess I have one more question for you, man, and I'll let you go. You've been gracious with your time tonight. How do you see? Let's go. Two-part question. How do you see your fight going down, and how do you see your brother's fight going down with Josh Thompson? Let's get both those.
Yeah, for sure. My fight, I'm training to do nothing but the best. I mean, I know that I'm in a new league, and I know that guys are gunning for me, and I feel like I need to perform at the best of my ability. I've been in training camp since the beginning of the year. I don't get out of shape. I don't lose. I have to lose a lot of weight to be where I'm at. So I feel like if I don't win this fight, I'm disappointing not myself, but everybody, the world. I mean, I've got a chance right now to make my name in this sport, and I'm definitely gonna capitalize on this opportunity. So my hand's gonna get raised at the end of the night. I don't know how it's gonna be done, but definitely my hand will be raised at the end of the night.
Okay.
And my brother fighting Josh Thompson. I look up to my older brother, man. This guy's beat me up all the time, day in, day out. I'm grinding with him every day. The cameras don't see how much we put into the sport. I mean, we try together, we bleed together, we achieve stuff together, and we live together. So I get to see everything that the best 155er in the world is doing, and he is sacrificing a lot to be where he's at, and I look up to that, and hopefully one day I will achieve what he's achieved.
Okay. Awesome. Well, from behalf of all of us at BJPen.com, I know especially for me personally, I'm very much looking forward to your debut in the UFC. I've been watching you on Access TV, and we've been seeing all we can of you. So it's going to be an honor to see you through your journey. And thank you very much for coming on tonight, man.
Hey, thank you guys for having me on. I just want to give a big shout out to Duke Rufus Gym, MMA Inc., UFC for giving me my chance, and I won't disappoint. All the fans, make sure you guys are watching. I won't disappoint.
All right, Sergio. Have a good night, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And that is all she wrote, George.
Man, I think that he's going to make some waves in that division.
He is. I mean, he's very confident, obviously, right? Super confident kid. Only 20 years old. Has big shoes to fill. But one thing that I think that I've learned, if he's anything like his brother, it's definitely don't count them out. They're confident for a reason. They're good fighters,
No, there's a lot to be said about a 20-year-old kid that's been training since he was 3 and been training at UFC with UFC level fighters.
That's right.
For the better part of the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Everybody in that division should be put on notice.
Yeah. It's going to be
if he doesn't do well at 35 and he goes down to 25, he'll probably be the champ down at 25. Like he's probably that good. How good can you be sparring with Anthony Pettis all day? I mean, you're going to be good. You're going to be slick on the ground, and you're going to be good standing.
Yep, that's true. All right, let's get into our next interview. We have 5 guests tonight, so our schedule is super cram packed. We're going to try to get everybody out of here on time. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we're going to try. Next up is Hector Lombard, right, George? For everybody at home, we actually talked to Hector Lombard just a couple hours ago. He's a busy guy in the midst of traveling, so we had to catch him when we caught him. We couldn't get him on live, but we recorded the whole interview, so I'm about to play it right now. You cool with that, George?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's put our mics on mute and let this thing play. BJPen.com radio, all of our fans listening. We have a very special guest tonight on the show, and George and I are both real happy to have him on. He's coming off a huge win over Nate Marquardt. It's Hector Lombard. Mr. Lombard, how's it going, man?
I'm good, thank you.
Great. Now you're coming off a big win. You're coming off a big win. You're in your welterweight debut for the UFC. Something that it didn't really last that long, which is exactly the way I wanted it to go. I'm not a big Marquardt fan, so congratulations to you, sir. How did it feel to get that win?
Thank you. I mean, it feels good, and I'm quite happy to keep my job in the UFC. You know.
Did you feel that
if I would lose that fight, I would have got cut. So.
Oh, you think so? You think if you lost that fight, that would have been it for you in the UFC?
Not too sure, but I would maybe. You know. So I want to stay in the UFC for a long time, and I want to keep fighting for the UFC and entertain my fans and the ones that they know my fans. I want to entertain them too. So.
Okay. Now, a lot of people before the fight, a lot of people were making a big deal online that you were having a really hard time cutting weight, saying that that you might not make it, but you did make it. You're a professional. You made the weight. But how hard was that cut for you now in hindsight, now that it's all over?
It was really hard, but every single time that I feel like soft, or when I feel that I'm tired, when I feel that I couldn't make it, I would go to the computer and I would check all the, if he was talking bad about me, and I would get that motivation to fill me up and keep on. So I'm quite happy that people always doubt me and stuff like that. So that gives me motivated and keep me in the place that I want to be.
Okay. That's an interesting take. Did you learn anything about yourself through this process? Maybe that welterweight is the right division for you. I know you said after the fight that your bosses got it right, that they know what they're doing. But for you personally, do you feel that it was the right decision to make?
I feel that I would have performed my 185. It seems like I didn't win the right when my first fight in the UFC. I had my sternum fracture and a lot of issues, and I don't want to make excuses. But yes, I feel that it was the right decision, and I feel that I should have done it a while ago.
Okay. Now your inclusion in the welterweight division is something really scary for, I'm sure, a lot of the other fighters that fight at 170. Who do you have your sights set on now? Is there somebody in particular you want to fight, or a group of guys, maybe like crack into the top 3, top 5? I mean, what is your immediate goals for your tenure in that division?
Yeah, I mean, I never choose any other fighter. I mean, it's a lot of fighters that I want to fight. I mean, I want to ask you that question to you. What do you think that should be a proper fight to fight?
Yeah, I mean, I think with taking off a guy like taking out a guy like Nate Marquardt, I mean, you automatically should get somebody in the realm of maybe like a Jake Ellenberger, a Carlos Condit, somebody there that's right up in the top tier. I think that you're a marketable guy, and that's what you deserve.
I'm quite happy to. I think that Carlos Condit is a higher rank, right?
Yes.
Who is high in the ring?
Carlos Condit. Carlos Condit is probably the top guy.
I take Carlos Condit. I take Carlos Condit.
Okay. Have you watched him fight? I'm sure. I don't know. Some fighters don't watch a lot of MMA, and some do. So you know what he brings to the table. He's a good striker. But do you think that he just plays right into your hands with your power?
Yeah, I want to fight him. You should mention me in the first round, so try to set up that one for him.
We'll definitely put the word in people's ears about that fight. But there are a lot of guys in that division. Had you ever looked at any of the top guys in that division and thought about fighting them, even when you were at 185? Because I think a lot of people forget that there was a point at one time where you were going to come into the UFC many years ago, and you were supposed to fight Carl Parisian, and that fight was going to be at 170 pounds.
Yeah, people forgot about that. Like people think that they always talk about Bellator fighter. I was supposed to fight in the UFC like since 2005.
Yeah, I completely recall that.
If people do the math, in 2005 to 2013, there's 8 years. So 8 years ago, I was supposed to fight for the UFC. But because of visa issues, I couldn't fight. I couldn't. But UFC had the eyes on me like a while ago. You know what I mean? So I don't know sometimes the people what they talk about. Like, to be honest here, but since 2005, I was supposed to be fighting in the UFC, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. And 8 years after, I'm fighting in the place that I always wanted to fight.
Yeah, and when you look back at it, 2005, if you would have come into the UFC, again, Carl was one of the top guys in the division even at that time, which says a lot about what the promotion thought about you even 8 years ago.
Right.
At the time, when you're looking at the fighters, then obviously the guys on top were like Matt Hughes, you had Carl Parisian. I think even BJ might have been fighting in the division in 2005. When you look back at it now, it's a completely different division. You've got guys like, you got GSP on top. He's been on top for quite some time. Johnny Hendricks, Carlos Condit. It's a completely different division. But you just picked off a former Strikeforce champion. And as Pedro was alluding to, it kind of really pushes you into the mix where you should get probably a top 3 guy, a Condit, a Martin Kampmann, or someone of that nature. Were these guys? Were you ever looking at them even when you were fighting at 185?
Martin Kampmann. Is that Martin Kampmann in top 5? Is he?
Well, I think that he's.
Kampmann?
Yeah, Kampmann I think is like has been kind of jumping up in the area of like number 5 through 8 probably for the past few years. Definitely in the top 10.
Can I fight him?
Well, definitely. These are all definitely good fight. These are all definitely good fights for you. Have you ever thought about how you matched up with a guy like GSP though, the current champion?
I don't want to go over there because I have a long time to get there. But let's be realistic. I want to get one of those guys that you mentioned me before. Can we make that possible?
We can. We'll push on it for you for sure. I can tell you that much. But when you look at your skills. When you look at your skills against a lot of the other guys, you can't. You've been touted as a judo guy, but here you go, and you've been knocking people out at middleweight, and I mean, you've been knocking out good strikers, you've been knocking out good grapplers, all over the place in various promotions, and now in the UFC as well. What was it that? That helped you to develop that kind of like?
If you see my if you see the style of fighting, my style of fighting it has nothing to do with you. I mean, I love judo, and I always gonna love judo, and I always gonna be. I'm gonna call myself like a judo player because I trained that sport for so many years, and it's part of me. Cause, I went everywhere in judo, and I competed at the highest level. But I don't use judo at all. I knock people up. I like to be excited, and that was my goal. Like a long time ago, I said like I want to be excited, and I want the people to want to watch me fight. Unfortunately, judo is not that exciting for me. So I try to develop a style where the people would get, would come to see me fight. And so I start training, stand up, and I call myself a striker because that's why I like to fight. I don't like to grapple. I never like. I like to stand up and if somebody has to get KO, somebody has to go out. That's the way I like.
So you're talking about judo. So somebody like Ronda Rousey, she uses her judo and she's constantly chasing submissions. Is that like a different? Is that somebody who's maybe using a completely different style of to use her judo in MMA, or is that what separates?
Ronda Rousey is a different animal. She's supernatural. I go. You know what I mean? Like, that girl is supernatural. Like, her strength is like, she's stronger than most of the names up there. So, obviously, she's going to go and destroy every single woman up there with judo. But, with me, it's going to be different because, I'm fighting guys that have the same strength. They have the same strength that I have. And I can't just, overpower them like Ronda Rousey does, you know what I mean? Like, so I try to be more like, more realistic in my game, So try to go and kill people. Because I won't overpower guys like she does.
Right.
Different animal, you know what I mean?
Right. So, what do you think helped you develop that kind of knockout power, and that you have? Because it's really feared. People just don't want to stand with you. People who are known for their striking and power don't want to stand with you. So, what do you think? What do you kind of attribute that to?
Well, I think I was like training and develop that strength and that power. It's like, Ronda Rousey. She lifts bodies all her life. You get to the point when, you're stronger than everybody else because she's been done it for so many years. That it gets to the point where, say, well, she's like 4 times stronger than all the girls that she's going to face. And that is because she's been training longer and harder than every single other athlete. Put it this way, she's been training since she was 5 or whatever. Lifting bodies and training hard like 3-4 times a day. There's no way any other woman has been training like that. So I try to kind of like train a lot more in striking all the time and punching the back and do a lot of things, but more striking than anything else to try to develop that strength, that power in that area in striking.
Well, you've definitely done well. What I thought was interesting about your last fight with Marquardt is it was very obvious he really didn't want to engage with you on the feet, and it almost looked like he was running from you. I mean, towards that last exchange, he was on the move. You had to chase him down. You caught him with the punches that put him away, but it was very exciting to watch. Now, going forward, you asked for a real quick turnaround. You want to fight on the next card in Australia. Is that something that you think is going to happen for you, or is the UFC trying to put together a match? Do you know anything about that?
Nah, that's not gonna happen. And Dana White and Joe Silva, like those, they very, they stick with what they say, and if Dana White say one thing, just forget about it. There's no way. If Joe Silva says one thing, forget about it. Well, whatever they say, so they told me, they said, oh, we already have the card is already locked, so there's no way. But I hope one day I can be the main event in Australia at one point. I hope that that's like my dream come. It's like a dream come true, like to be the main event. And like I said before, no one ever has fought more times in Australia than me. If you check my record, you take a look, I fought more than anybody in Australia. And basically, I was one of the pioneers in Australia, in MMA. Like, me, Soa, my hand decided to be after and stuff like that. But my point is, like, I've done it for so long time, so I think that it would be it would be good for me to be fighting as a main event in Australia at one point.
I agree, and hopefully, hopefully that can happen for you. I think that even before you were signed with the UFC, the Australian fans were clamoring and begging the UFC to pick you up and to sign you. And now that has actually happened, I'm sure that they can't wait to get you headlining a card out there.
Yeah, you're right about that. They, thanks to my Australian fans, I actually believe that thanks to them, I am in the UFC today, because you have no idea how many people they used to come up to Dana White, and how many people from Australia they used to send emails and stuff like that and tweet about when they was going to sign me up. And I'm grateful to Australia to support me from the start. And the last thing that I can do right now is just put the flag out there and mention them everywhere I go, and that's the last thing that I can do. And I'm gonna do it.
Okay, so since you're not going to be on the Australia card, when do you foresee your return to action? Do you want to return as soon as possible? I mean, or do you want to take some time and enjoy the fruits of your labor and your latest victory?
I don't really want to enjoy it. I don't want to enjoy it. I believe that when you in one thing, or you go all the way or no way. And I don't want to go up there and party, or be like a short pony, or be at the clubs and say, oh, you guys, you watched my last fight, how great I was. I don't want to do none of that. I've been like kind of like joking right now, training, running, and stuff like that, slow. But next week I'm going back to the gym again and start training again. So yeah, I do want to get a fight as soon as possible. Probably by the end of the year. I don't know. It's up to you, see, as you know. But yeah, I want to keep busy. I don't want to stay there and clumsing around and talk about myself or whatever. I just want to do my job.
Okay, sounds good. And then my last question for you is this, Hector. With your move down to 170 pounds, like we've said it over and over again through the course of this interview, you're basically, you cemented yourself as a true contender in that division. Is the ultimate goal for you to be a UFC champion? I know that every fighter says that, but with your tenure in the sport, you're the former Bellator champion. You always have a lot of hype around you, a lot of fan support. Do you feel that would actually like cement and complete your legacy as a fighter? And is that something that you're really striving towards going forward?
I mean, my philosophy is very simple. If it's meant to happen, it's gonna happen. It's an old saying that the grass that is for that particular horse, there's no other cow that can eat it. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like, keep training, be humble, and if it's meant to happen, it's gonna happen. If you don't, I'm grateful that I could fight. So many people that they unfortunately get injured, or so many people unfortunately something happened today and they can't even fight anymore. And I'm just grateful that I can stay fighting and performing and entertaining my fans.
Okay, well, entertaining you are, Mr. Lombard. You're a pleasure to watch. I've enjoyed every single fight you've ever been in, and I look forward to the next one. Thank you very much for taking the time out with us today. I know you don't do a lot of interviews, so it's a real honor to have you on our show this afternoon and get your word out. Best of luck to you in the future, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Thank you, guys. God bless.
And there it is, just a quick little interview with Mr. Hector Lombard, who's coming off his win with over Nate Marquardt last weekend, huh?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, what did you think? I mean, obviously, you were impressed by it, but what did you think as now that a couple days have gone by and you kind of see where he might fit into the division? What do you think?
I think he's definitely up there in the division. As we said, in the interview, I think he deserves like a top 3 to 5 guy. He's always been a top 10 fighter, I think, be it at middleweight, and he's going to continue to be so now that he's at welterweight. And I think that for anybody who listened to our show last week, you have to know that I was super excited about that fight because that's exactly the way I wanted it to go down. The only element that we're missing now is that Nate Marquardt gets released from the UFC for the second time. That would make it perfect. But outside of that, yeah, I'm hating. But outside of that, it was awesome. I mean, did he even get hit? I don't even remember. Did he get hit? I don't even think he got hit.
I just don't think that a lot of people want to engage with Hector. I think that the thought goes through a lot of people's minds, but once they get out there and they see how aggressive he is, that they don't even want to bother.
Yeah, exactly. He's a beast, dude. So it was awesome to have him on the show. That was his first time on our show. We've had a lot of firsts tonight. We had our, for Sergio Pettis on for the first time, Hector Lombard on for the first time. Has Joey Beltran been on our show before? I mean, he's one of my buddies from way back, but I don't even know that we've had him on.
Yeah, we've had him. I think we have had him on, no?
No. I couldn't get him on before his last fight because
I think we tried to get him on, or no, we got him on when he got back to the UFC.
Oh, you're right. We had him on when
we got him. We got him like when he was returning to the UFC. And again, I was saying it earlier. He's one of these guys that I think can bounce back, and he's a really entertaining fighter. He's got a crazy style. He comes forward. He loves to bang, and he puts on a show for the crowds. I think that if he just strings together a couple, he can come right back.
Yeah, probably.
That type of style that people want to see.
Yeah, he's an exciting fighter. And for those just tuning in, we just got off our interview with Hector Lombard. Before that, we had Sergio Pettis on. Next up, in just about 5 minutes, is Joey the Mexicutioner Beltran, who just got released from the UFC last week, or this week, rather, earlier than the week. And then after him, we're going to Anthony Pettis. And then as our last guest, we have KJ Noons, who's coming off his victory of George Sotiropoulos last weekend at UFC 166. So that's the rundown for the rest of the show for those who are just now tuning in. You definitely don't want to miss these interviews, especially with Anthony Pettis. I mean, mean, he's one of the biggest stars in MMA now. He's definitely getting some star power, and it's his first time on our show, so honored to have him.
Yeah, definitely, man. We stacked the lineup. We stacked the lineup tonight, and it's definitely good to have a lot of these guys on. Pettis, coming still the world is buzzing off that huge armbar victory over Ben Henderson. I mean, it was a big win for him and his team, and obviously talking to his brother couldn't be more proud, and is definitely trying to follow in his footsteps. So it's really cool to have those two on. I think it's the first time we've had brothers on, huh?
Yeah, first time brothers on the same show. I would love to get the Diaz brothers on. It'd be another awesome show.
Yeah, Nick is one of the most requested guests.
Yeah, well, ironically, earlier in the week when I put out our first list of guests, I asked the fans who else they wanted us to book. I'm like, okay, we have one more slot. Who should we book? This was at the point where I had just had Anthony Pettis, Hector Lombard, and Joey Beltran scheduled, and literally not like there were a few Dana Whites, a couple Chael Sonnens, but the most people were asking for Sergio Pettis, and that probably has to be because Anthony Pettis tweeted us to say get his brother on the show as well. But that's, I mean, once I saw the fans' outcry for Sergio, I was like, okay, yeah, let's get this kid on, let's do it. And I hit up Anthony. I'm like, hey man, give me your brother's number, let's make it happen. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really insightful. He's about to go on his UFC journey, like I was talking about. I really do think that he's got big things ahead. He's got a good team behind him. His brother is obviously the perfect role model. UFC champion. He's been successful everywhere he's gone, and with everything he's done. He's obviously got a wealth of experience training from a young age. He's got, that said, he's got youth on his side. I just think that the ingredients are there to where if he puts it all together and he stays focused, he can actually make a run at a title and be a champion in his organization.
And not only that, he's very polished, right? I mean, obviously with the last name like Pettis, he's done a lot of interviews. When we talked to him, I was very kind of impressed with the way he handled himself through our questions and his overall demeanor. He's actually just like his brother, man, with their confidence and everything like that. It was really kind of you could really easily see the similarities in those two boys' personalities for sure. So I bet you, with all of everything that he's been through with his, not his just career, but in his personal life, looking up to his brother, that he's going to perform very well in his debut. You can't say that for a lot of guys. A lot of guys aren't ready for the big lights that are the UFC, but I think this kid's actually going to be, he's going to do fine. No octagon jitters, or if he didn't have them, they're probably going to be very minimal, at least going into his fight.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one. I think that him and his brother are very well spoken, and they're going to be able to put it together.
Yep. You're sounding great, by the way, George. Sounding great tonight. Every word's loud and clear, and I'm not even joking.
That's good because I was experiencing some technical problems.
Yeah.
So, but
I probably just jinxed it.
Yeah. His brother and him and his brother are so well spoken, and you can tell, but just talking to him, the maturity level for somebody who's 20 years old. I can't begin to tell you what the hell was going on in my life when I was 20 years old, but I can tell you this much: he has a lot more going on than I did when I was 20.
I mean,
he's very mature, and he has his act together, and it says a lot about where he is right now.
And he said he missed prom and he missed homecoming so he could train and all that stuff. I mean, that's dedication. That's a true testament to where his motivation's been growing up. It's something to behold, I guess. I am excited, man, to see his UFC debut. Not really that excited to see a lot of people's debuts. I mean, Brock Lesnar, Kimbo Slice, there's always guys that you're excited to see that don't have any experience in the UFC. Sergio Pettis, not saying he's up there with the Brock Lesnar and Kimbo, but just saying I'm still interested in seeing his debut. I definitely will tune in.
But yeah, if he finishes guys with the flash and that his brother does, I mean, he's going to become a star pretty quickly. In a division that you said exactly, kind of needs that star power, is wanting that person to come and stick out. But I'm kind of curious though, like I wonder how. I mean, in the scheme of things, I don't think that anybody's going to be rushed to any title shots and things like that. But Renan Barão is a beast, man, at bantamweight. I mean, that's a tough fight.
Yeah, it is.
Tough fight for anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a very, very. I mean, how many fights has he won in a row now? I mean, more than 30.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Yeah, so, I mean, he's picked off a lot of top guys, and again, that he's not. It's not like he's an old, washed-up fighter either. He's also a young guy. So, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. It's really an exciting time to be in those divisions. It's good to see that these divisions are getting built. We saw Dodson the other night. He looks better and better. He's one of the best athletes down there. I just think that there's a lot of room for guys to grow. You see guys that are always making their way into the UFC. You see guys that are always making their way back into the fold of the UFC. It's a completely normal process, and I think one that's just going to happen more and more often as the company expands.
That's right, and you kind of gave us the perfect segue into our next guest, George. As is with life, everything seemed to circle in and out. We had Sergio Pettis, who's getting ready to make his UFC debut on the show earlier, and right now we have Joey Beltran on the line, who unfortunately we learned this week was released from the UFC. What's up, Joey? How's it going, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Doing good. So tell us what's going on with you, brother, because we all heard the news. You're not going to be fighting for the UFC anymore, at least not in the immediate future. You were released from your contract after your last fight. So what's up? Tell us all about that.
Well, I mean, it is. You said it exactly. UFC elected to not renew my contract. I did not win my last fight, technically.
Right.
So that's that. All good. It is what it is. You've looked at the way things have been going. UFC. I mean, Dana White said it. In plain English, the roster is full. It's all good, man. I'll be back. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I know you will, man, and I'm not worried about it either. Let's go ahead and talk about that fight, Fabio Maldonado, and of course, you and me, we're friends. I've been knowing you for a while, and so I'm obviously rooting for my boy, the Mexicutioner, fellow Californian, down there in Brazil. You're fighting Fabio Maldonado. I thought you won the fight, and that's not even being biased. Like if I was just to score it, I think you won the fight. Close fight, fun fight, but I think you won it. I don't even understand how that was questioned. Do you think it was just came to a matter of you were fighting the hometown guy and just kind of like something happened there with the judges? Because, that's been known to happen.
Yeah, I mean, coulda, shoulda, woulda. Bottom line, the blame is on me. I knew what situation I was walking into. I knew I was walking into his home turf. And me losing the second round, by losing 5 minutes of the fight, I opened the door for them to steal the whole thing. That's all my fault, bro. And at the end of the day, that's what happened. I don't know why. I mean, I was in shape. Me and my coaches have been going back. I don't know, man. I'm thinking possibly one of two things. Maybe the weight cut, because the water situation down there, I cannot find even normal water, dude. All they have was mineral water. And if you're trying to cut weight, cut sodium out of your diet, lose weight, the last thing you want to do is put a bunch of mineral water, which is full of magnesium and sodium in your body. So it wasn't until the last day, the actual day before the weigh-in, that I found some distilled water, and I was able to, and I cut 17 pounds that last day, the day and a half before. Possibly that's why I got tired of the second round. Maybe I was holding my breath and was a little too excited. Adrenaline dumped. The crowd was going crazy. Short, I lost the second round. and it opened the door for them to steal the whole thing from me. But overall, I mean, I take full responsibility. You know, I had a game plan, obvious. You know, I'm not going to, as much as people want me to stand in the middle and swing with them, why would I do that with a pro boxer with a 22-0 record? I've bled enough for the UFC fan. I've had enough wars. I've gone enough with stitches and literally holes in my face too many times. I didn't feel I went in there with a plan and a strategy, obviously close the distance, put them on the fence and rough them up, take them down. And I was able to do that for 2 out of the 3 rounds, and they jacked me. But it's all good, man. What am I going to do? I can't do anything about it now. I'm moving on, getting ready for the next whatever the next fight may be, wherever against whoever. That's what I'm focused on.
Is that something that you're conscious of when it's going on in the octagon? Because that was that's a pretty brutal, pretty crazy fight that you were having in there with Maldonado, and again, as you were touching on, you know, the fans have almost kind of come to expect that from when you fight, and I think they kind of expect that from Fabio Maldonado also. Are you kind of like conscious of that when it's going on? Because obviously you said, you know, a lot of people thought you won the fight. I'd say a good portion of people thought you won the fight. Is that something you're conscious of when it's going on? Like, you know, you're like, man, this is a crazy fight. It's super, super close. Or are you just kind of going off what your corner's telling you?
I mean, honestly, like the first round was, I just remember, and maybe it was because I hadn't fought in so long. I just remember like, fuck, dude, like I just got thrown in a washing machine. You know, like it was everything happened so fast. And then the second round came, and I landed a big combination of big hard elbows, and we separated. We got out to the middle, and I remember thinking, "Oh shit, I am tired." And then he just started jabbing me, and I was unconscious and totally aware I was getting jabbed. They weren't hurting. And I'm not saying that to be a jerk or whatever, but honestly, like none of his punches hurt. He was just, you know, popping me at 4 points, just popping me, obviously winning the fight. And third round, going before the third round, my corner, you know, let me know, plain English, like, you need to fucking win this round. You need to take it down. You need to win. And I went out and did it. I went out throwing big, heavy haymakers. I cracked a couple times solid, and got the takedown at the end, got the position, controlled takedown, roughed him up, busted his face up. You know, if that was on a playground, in a schoolyard, anywhere, you see us at the end of that fight, he's covered in blood, I'm doing okay, I win that fight. But unfortunately, we weren't fighting in the playground, we were fighting in Brazil in his hometown, and they got me. You know, like I said, I mean, I try to I sit here and go crazy over it. The bottom line is, like, I know I won. He knows I won. I had countless number of Brazilians coming up to me and telling me that I won, which is kind of cool, you know. But I didn't win on the judges; they didn't give it to me. So what can I do?
What were your thoughts though? Like, so you know, when the fight was over, were you confident that you had won the fight, or were you surprised when you were reading the cards? You know, judges' scores can always be screwy. I mean, history shows that. But you know, were you in your corner confident that you had won the fight, or were you just like, you know, what the fuck when they were reading the scores out?
I thought I had won the fight, and the second they said it was a split, I knew I lost. Yeah.
That's just crazy, man. Well, Joey,
my fault, my responsibility to go out there and dominate. Like I said, man, the thing that really bugs me is not losing, is that I got so goddamn tired in the second round, and I don't know why. I haven't been that tired since I've been a heavyweight. And that's the part, I swear, that's the part that pisses me off. Not losing, not getting cut by the UFC. It's the fact that I got tired. Because I did everything. I was putting in work, like going heads up with Alex Jefferson, like round after round in the gym. Like I was ready to fight. And I don't know, man. I don't know what the hell happened. I think it might have been the harsh weight cut. well, not harsh for a lot of people, but harsh for me. I've never had to do that. I always do it steadily over a week. But I always have the food that I want and normal water. You know, I got to Brazil. It's funny, but it's not funny. I had diarrhea for the first 3 days. You know?
That's crazy.
You know, it's fucking, you know, it's all good, man.
Yeah, it's all.
The next one, as Jay-Z said.
Right. I mean, you've been here before, you know. I mean, you when you first came into the UFC in your first stint, you were a heavyweight. You kind of reinvented yourself, and after a fight at light heavyweight, you were right back in the fold, you know. So you know, no doubt you definitely belong in the UFC. If it wasn't for the poor decision, I mean, you pretty much won your last 2 of 3 fights, you know. So that kind of sucks. It's just circumstances being what they are, you know. It's just very unfortunate, man.
You know what? It is, but honestly, Pedro, if you know me, if you really know me, and you really know like what I've come from and what I've been able to do, it's pretty remarkable, man. Just the fact that I've even been in the UFC, period. Like it's in no way, shape, or form a joke or a lie when I say that I literally got off the couch and decided I want to fight. I want to fight. I don't want to go. I was 24 years old, still in junior college, you know, and I decided, you know what? I'm not gonna be. I don't want to die wondering, could I have made it? Like, what if? And I decided to go for it, man. I put all my eggs in a basket, grabbed a hold of my nuts, and I went for it. And I was able to make it into the UFC after 3 years of training and fighting. And then I lasted there for 10 fights when I was supposed to get rolled over by Apollo Gracie. Basically rolled over by everybody else. The entire time I was there, I was supposed to lose. You know, and to win 4 out of 10 fights, like I said, you grab anybody, look at your uncle, look at your cousin sitting on the couch, 300 pounds, and say, hey, do you want to go fight in the UFC? It's pretty cool, man. So I'm not worried. And you know, and I've been talking to my coach Hector a lot about it. And I used to take losing really, really hard, man. It like used to bum me out. I'd get depressed and go on benders and stuff. Really put my family through the ringer. You know, fighting doesn't define me. Fighting is a really cool portion of who I am as a person. And it's a really cool portion of my journey of life. And I know that it's not the end-all, be-all of me. UFC is not the end-all, be-all of who I am as a person. It's fun. I'm sure it's going to be a really cool part, a really cool story to tell my grandkids. But fuck, man, there's so much more I need to do in this world and outside of fighting.
Right on. So talk about this, man. What is next for you? I would hope, and I'm assuming that you know you're going to continue to fight. But I mean, have you thought about it? I mean, I'm sure you guys have had your phone ringing over there with some offers off the bat. What's going on?
You know, there's a couple different offers. I mean, but I'm not going to lie. I told my manager, hey, I'll fight Rampage. I'll fight him.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, I don't know what they're going to do, what Bellator's going to do. But, yeah, you know, like right now, I'm just focused on teaching. I'm still training. I got, you know, Chris Lieben's got a fight in 8 weeks. Jason Lambert's got a Bellator fight on November 15th. You know, my brothers need me right now. And so I'm helping them. I got a couple different offers from a couple different organizations. It's not going to take a rocket scientist to figure out what those organizations are. And what we're going to do is think about what's going to be the best place for me to go out and entertain. But I'll say this, the people that like watching me fight, you will catch me on television sooner than later. But before then, you know, honestly, I'm going to try to do, I'm not going to try, I'm going to do a professional boxing fight because that's just something I've always wanted to do. I actually, growing up, I wanted to be a professional boxer. You know, there was no MMA when I was growing up.
Right.
So I want to do that just to knock another goal off of my list. And, man, the future's looking bright, brother. It's all good, man.
That's awesome.
Everyone was like, are you bummed, dude? I was like, no, man. I've made it there twice. What's going to stop me from going back there a third time?
That's right.
That's even where I end up. You know, who knows? I could end up going to World Series of Fighting or Bellator and having an awesome, fruitful career. You know, I'm just looking at the future with bright eyes and open arms, ready to take on whatever comes my way.
That's awesome, man. I'm really glad to hear that, and I know that we'll see you. You know what I mean? We're gonna catch you on some of the other bigger stages in our sport for sure. I have no doubt about it. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up, man. But I want to kind of give you the floor because I know you have a lot of fans out there. Everybody loves watching you fight. So, what do you want to say to the fans that maybe we haven't covered already?
I just would like to say to everybody that supports me and that likes the way I fight, honestly, like, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you guys. And, if I could do anything other than entertain you is to just give you a little inspiration that, hey, man, normal people can do extraordinary things when they fucking work really hard and put their mind to something. I'm a classic example of that. Like I said, I was off the couch, went into a gym 3 years later fighting in the UFC, knocking out Hollis Gracie. So it can be done. And anybody that says I suck and I'm fat and I'm a slob, you're right, I am chubby. I do suck. But you know what? I have the balls to go for it. So you guys can continue hating, doing whatever it is that you like to do for life. My fans, friends, and family, I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. And like I said, you'll see me sooner than later on the television doing what I do. Thank you.
Awesome, Mr. Beltran. Well, thank you very much for joining us on BJPenn.com radio tonight, brother. And I know we'll have you back on soon with some exciting news about what's next.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you guys, man. I appreciate it. And BJPenn.com, Pedro, from a long time ago, you guys have been supporting, and I truly do appreciate that.
There, brother, all day, man. You know it. Thanks, Joey.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. All right. You guys have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Late. All right, George. We have absolutely no time to recap that interview. We have to go straight into Anthony Pettis, bro. But, Joey, thanks for all the entertaining fights in the UFC, man. It was great having him on. George, what are your thoughts, real quick?
Yeah, onward and upward, man. He has a good positive outlook, and it looks like we're going to be hearing some news soon. So, yeah, I'll be looking forward to it.
All right, and guys, just to prep you at home right now on Anthony Pettis, I did talk to him a day and a half ago. This is another pre-record. Sorry we couldn't get him on live. He has camera crews over there in and out of his life right now, filming him for his fight with Josh Thompson. So I had to catch him in the middle of the day the other day, and I recorded it. And George couldn't even make it. It was very last minute. I was talking to Anthony. He was like, let's just do it right now. So George couldn't even make it. It's just me and Anthony Pettis right here, right now. That's it. George, let's mute our mics and get this thing going. Unfortunately, I am without my co-host George Matthews. This is kind of off the cuff since you're making some kind of last-minute time to sit down with us at BJPenn.com. So tell me, Anthony, right off the bat, how is life after winning the UFC title?
Life is definitely busy, man. Mostly because I chose to pick a fight right away with Josh Thompson in December. I wanted to stay busy. My body's feeling good. I feel like I'm ready to go, and just my biggest thing is staying active.
I do want to talk to you about that fight with Josh, but before we get into that fight, I want to know about what your thoughts are of Gilbert Melendez. He's coming off an impressive performance. Diego Sanchez, many people are calling that fight best fight in MMA history. What are your thoughts on his performance there, and then his clamoring for wanting to fight you as well?
I mean, it was a very entertaining fight. I was there live. I saw the fight, but I mean, not my fight style. I mean, you'll never see Anthony Pettis in a fight like that. I'm too intelligent. I'm too skilled and too versatile to be standing with somebody toe to toe. Very entertaining though. I mean, the fans love it, and just it's not my style. And I mean, Melendez is a great fighter. I'm sure we're gonna fight sometime in the future. But right now, Josh Thompson is the guy I'm focusing on. And if I try to think about all the potential matchups I could have at 155, I would never get any sleep. So,
right.
This thing one fight at a time. And right now, me and Thompson have our date set, and that's all I'm really focused on. Very entertaining fight with Diego and Melendez, but like I said, just not my style. You would never see me, in a match like that. Too much skill and talent to be caught up in a brawling match.
It was a crazy fight, though, right? I mean, just like from a spectator's point of view.
Man. I mean, like I said, very, very entertaining. I mean, I enjoyed watching the fight. Like I said, something that doesn't interest me to be part.
What is your initial reaction when Gilbert says stuff like "I'm the true champion at lightweight" or "I'm the uncrowned champ" and he says all those things because obviously you're the real lightweight champion, but here is this other guy trying to kind of take a piece of that pie from you. And I'm just curious, what goes on when you hear that kind of stuff?
I can't wait to keep through Josh Thompson and fight Gilbert Melendez. The fans know what's up. I mean, the real fans that saw his fight with Henderson and that saw my fight with Henderson, I mean, they know who the champ is. It took me 4 minutes to beat Henderson. He couldn't finish him in 25.
Right. Makes sense. Now, there's another guy, and I know you don't want to talk about all the potential matchups, but I'm just going over current events and everything that's going around because you actually have a lot of heat on you since winning this title, probably even before you won the title. But the guy, Jose Aldo, there was an interview done yesterday, I think it came out today, saying that he wants to steal your belt. He's making plans to move up to lightweight now. Says he doesn't want you moving down. He wants to come up. Is that? I mean, obviously, I know that's a challenge that you welcome, but hearing that he wants to steal your belt, he wants to add it to his wall now. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it, man. I mean, I got people talking, so it's a good thing. I mean, you got all these potential to a great fight, and my name's part of all of them. So. No, I love it. I mean, I'm doing my job right, and the fans want to see me fight. And Jose Aldo's a great fighter. I mean, like I said, I've never had any beef with Jose Aldo. It's just he's one of the best in the world, and I'm one of the best in the world. Let's find out who the best is.
Okay. Now, Anthony, something I find kind of real polarizing about you as a person, not just a fighter, is it seems like you have an extreme amount of confidence in yourself, and I'm wondering where does that confidence come from? Because I mean, a lot of people may not know you from the WEC days, even though you had the amazing kick. Not until you enter the UFC, you're kind of on the big stage at that point. But I mean, you're a real confident guy. You always have been. And where do you draw that from?
I mean, just everything I've done in my life, and I mean the things I've been through, the amount of time I spend in the gym, the sacrifices I've made to be where I'm at. I better be confident. I better be thinking I'm the best in the world, or why am I even doing this job? I mean, I could do other jobs and make decent money without the sacrificing of my body.
All right. Does it feel good that you're able to back up the talk in the cage too? Because I mean, there was a lot of noise. You winning the title shot. You felt that you're the number one lightweight in the world, and then you go in against a guy like Benson Henderson who had a very impressive run of success in the UFC, and you handled him in the first round. I mean, you not only talk the talk, but you walk the walk in this instance. And I'm just curious, was there a lot of pressure there, and how did it feel once the job was done?
Yeah, honestly, man, I'm not a big talker. I mean, guys that fight me, besides Cerrone, I mean, no one else. I don't talk mess about my opponents. I mean, I respect everybody that does this job. I mean, it takes a certain type of person to be a professional MMA fighter. And then not only professional, performing in the highest level. So I mean, I'm not a real big talker. I am very confident. Some people can mistake my confidence for cockiness, but I mean, they walk hand in hand. And for me, like you said, I perform. That's what I like to do. I like to go out there and show that I'm better than these guys and prove that I'm better than these guys. Because I dream it every night. I go to sleep dreaming this. This is all I ever want to be was UFC champ. It's here now. It's at my house, and I don't plan on letting that thing go anytime soon.
Okay. Now, what about your brother? I know there's a lot of talk with your brother, a lot of hype around Sergio. He's entering the UFC. I know it's well documented that you kind of take that role model figure and you try to be a good role model for your brother. But what's it like in the Pettis house right now, having two UFC fighters, in the family?
It's actually amazing, man. For me, I'm actually very proud that my brother, made it to the UFC. Something we've been training for and dreaming of, together since we started this thing. I mean, he was like 13 with me, and now he's 20 years old, and he's making his UFC debut next month. On the 20th anniversary show. It's kind of ironic. The UFC's been out for 20 years. He just turned 20 last month. So it's an amazing feeling. I mean, very, very proud moment in my life. I mean, even prouder. Almost as proud as me winning the title, because this is a kid that has been through the same thing I've been through, and I know how tough it was for me to overcome that, and for us to do it together, I think it's just a better story.
What do you attribute that to? What do you attribute? Because it's not common for brothers. I mean, to have two brothers in the same family be in athletics, let alone be at the highest level of their chosen sport, like you and your brother. And what do you mean? What do you attribute that to? Is that just genetics, or is it a product of your environment? I mean, what is that?
I think a little bit of everything. I mean, me and Sergio grew up in a rough neighborhood, but we had a really strong mom. I mean, mom put us in Taekwondo. I mean, she's a single parent paying for Taekwondo lessons, paying for us to go to private schools. She sacrificed a lot for us to be where we're at, and I think it's a product of my environment. I remember being like 5 years old, and visiting my dad in the hospital. He got shot. I thought that was a normal thing. He's like, I'm 5 years old, 6 years old. My dad got shot in the leg, and I go to the hospital. I'm like, I thought it was normal. Like, everybody's gonna get shot, or something's gonna happen to everybody. Like, violence was part of our life growing up. So my mom put us in Taekwondo to get us away from that, and I think that really helped us just see the other side of life. She can use not violence, but you can use martial arts, for a different purpose. And us being athletic and having good genes has to do with all that. Also, I mean, it's a lot of stuff that played a role into making Sergio Pettis and Anthony Pettis.
Okay. Now let's go ahead and let's talk about the fight with Josh Thompson. He's your first title challenger. I know a lot about Josh. I think the whole world knows a lot about Josh as far as his fighting style, what he brings to the table. But when you break him down, what do you see in him that you're gonna have to deal with come December?
The most dangerous thing of Josh, I think, right now is that he doesn't have a lot of buzz around his name. I mean, when you're fighting somebody with a lot of buzz, like say for instance, you get Jose Aldo, everybody's amped up about it. Everybody's like, oh man, it's gonna be an amazing fight. In this fight, everybody thinks it's gonna be an amazing fight, but it's not like I'm not getting the effect where people's like, man, you have a tough fight coming up. Most people are saying, oh, you're gonna have no problem with Josh Thompson. You're gonna walk right through him. And I hate that. I hate when people tell me that stuff, because that's I don't even think that way. This is gonna be the toughest fight of my life. It's my first title defense. I better have an even better performance than me winning the title. So a lot of pressure on my end to have a good performance. And a guy like Josh Thompson, he's great everywhere. I mean, great striker, great on the ground, good wrestling. Doesn't really have any holes in his game. And he's coming off a knockout of Nate Diaz, so he has some confidence coming into this fight also. He's 35 years old. His last chance at a title shot. He's coming with everything he has, and I better be ready for it.
Do you look at his fights with Gilbert Melendez as any indicator of what he'll try to put you through? Because, like you just said, it's not your fighting style like the Diego versus Gil type of fight, but Josh has been known to get in those wild exchanges with the Gilbert Melendez and put on a show for the fans and kind of just like throw it all out there. Do you think that might be something?
Yeah, let me make that clear. I mean, I'm not saying that I won't get in an exchange. It's just not my style to get hit like that. I mean,
right.
If you watch my fights, I've gotten hit maybe once or twice out of my whole career. It's not that I can't take a hit. I don't need to get hit. Why get hit in the face when I can shoot before you hit me? So I mean, I'm not afraid to get in an exchange, but I have an intelligent fight style, man, and I think Josh is going to have a problem with it. I think anybody in 155, 145 is going to have a problem with my fight style. I'm getting better every day. I'm adding new parts to my game, and I'm confident, man. That's just what it is. I'm just very confident in my skills, my training, my coaching, and I'm not a big guy that watches a lot of the video, so I watch my opponent, once or twice. I kind of already know him. I mean, I'm a fan of the sport. I know most of these fights. I know most of the guys. I've seen most of these fights, so I kind of know what to expect. I'll let my coaches look for the details and come up with a game plan, and I go out there and perform.
Okay. Now, is it a mistake for fighters, anybody who's going to challenge you for your title, any future opponents, to look at your loss against Clay Guida and kind of try to formulate a game plan like that? Because Josh brings an interesting mix of striking with good wrestling. I mean, we saw him take down KJ Noons time and time again. He's done that to a few guys when he doesn't have I don't know what it is in him to stand there in exchange. He often will go to wrestling and takedowns and kind of grinding guys down. I mean, we've seen him do that. So just drawing the comparison, is that a mistake to try to do the Guida game plan? I mean, Anthony Pettis now, I'm assuming, is a totally different fighter.
Nah, I mean, I don't think it's a mistake. I mean, whenever you're fighting somebody, you have to look at your losses. And my only real loss is, versus Clay Guida. So, I mean, he didn't beat me up. He didn't submit me. He didn't knock me out. He just grinded me out and laid on top of me for 15 minutes. So, I mean, if that's what they plan on doing, they better be ready to avoid submissions, avoid getting knocked out, and it's definitely a different fighting style from that. Clay Guida definitely woke me up and let me realize that I have to add more elements to my game. Being athletic and being, very dangerous isn't just enough. You have to be intelligent out there. You have to understand the point system. You have to understand everything. And guys, they have to look at my loss because they can't look at my last 3 fights because they're flawless victories. I mean, you look at my last 3 fights, blows on Henderson, not much to go off of. So they're gonna have to go back to Clay Guida or Jeremy Stevens, that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't take a mistake for them to look at it. But like I said, man, I'm so confident right now. Coming up my last 3 fights, I've been in the octagon, less than 6 minutes, 7 minutes total, and I don't plan on changing it.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna wrap this interview soon. I know you got to get to training and stuff, but I have a lot of I have a lot of things that, I want to know about. What do you consider a successful career in MMA? Do you feel like because you're the lightweight champion that your career is now a success, and if you were to make the decision to walk away today, you could look back with it and knowing you were successful, or do you have bigger aspirations to beat title defense records and stuff like that, like your predecessor?
Yeah, honestly, everybody asks me about the title. It's cool to have the belt here, at my house and be called the champ, but even before I had the belt, it's the same objective. It's win. I mean, I can't lose my next fight, and that's what it was before. I was the champion. So I don't plan on losing. So I'm definitely planning on breaking some records there. And I just want to be remembered as the guy that elevated the game. I think my fighting style just makes people think out of the box and come up with new things, and it just makes the sport interesting again. I'm not saying it's not interesting, but everybody likes that. When I fight, everybody knows something's. Keep your eye on something's gonna happen. I mean, it's always looking to finish somebody. I'm dangerous. I'm not trying to win a fight going 5 rounds and hopefully being up on the judges' scorecards. I mean, that's not my objective at all. So I want to be remembered as one of the most dominant champs in MMA. I want to be the guy that finishes everybody in the first round, and no one can get up the first round from me.
Okay, now, obviously that's a fantastic goal and mindset to go into every fight, or just to live your life and day in and day out in the training room. But do you put too much pressure on yourself by having that outlook, or is it kind of these are kind of passive thoughts that that's what you want, but you accept the reality that you may not be able to deliver every single fight?
No, that's not what I'm going in there as. My reality is I'm going to finish in the first round, and if I don't finish in the first round, then I'm not doing my job right.
Awesome. That's cool, man. All right, Anthony. I look very forward to your fight against Josh Thompson, man. I really appreciate your time with us today. UFC lightweight champion right there. There it is. Mr. Anthony Pettis. Was great having him on the show. And hopefully we get to do it again. Hopefully maybe next time it can be live. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the fight with Josh is just going to be a great fight. I think that a lot of people are because of the nature in which Anthony won that belt from Ben Henderson, I think that a lot of people are already counting Josh out. It's kind of what have you done for me lately? People forget that Josh really, really dominated Nate Diaz. I mean, and really impressed a lot of people. So I think it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, it'll be a good fight. Obviously, Josh is a staple on BJPen.com and on our radio show. And Anthony, the champ, I'm very excited to see both those guys fight. And may the best man win.
Yeah, for sure. Anthony's always been very helpful for in working with us and things like that too. So definitely give props to Anthony and both the Pettis family. Really in general. For they've always been really cool with us, and Josh is like family with us too. So it's all it's all good. It's going to be a great fight, man. I really think that the two styles lend each other to be great fights. Both guys are gonna stand up. They've got good punches, good kicks, very dynamic, strong jiu-jitsu, good wrestling from both of them, good defense. They all of them, both of them come in shape to go 5 rounds. I mean, it's got everything that it takes to be a great fight.
Yeah, it does. Up next on the show, for those who are just tuning in, it's going to be our last guest. It's going to be KJ Nunes. He just is coming off his first UFC win against George Sotiropoulos last weekend at UFC 166. Again, everybody's calling UFC 166 the best MMA event of all time. KJ Nunes was a part of that show. Put on a very exciting fight against George Sots, as I like to call him, because it's shorter than Sotiropoulos. George, what did you think about that fight?
Yeah, it was a great fight. I mean, the whole card, the whole card was great. Sotiropoulos, you were talking about it when we were off there. Sotiropoulos really is a tough opponent. I think that again, people have a short-term memory. They forget that George Sotiropoulos has had a pretty long, successful career in the UFC, despite maybe the recent skid he was on going into the fight with KJ. I mean, they were both on 3-fight skids. KJ managed to get the victory there, and is going to press forward and look for bigger and better things in the UFC. But with that said, George was a very tough opponent. It's a big victory for him. You're talking about a guy who was successful in the Ultimate Fighter, a guy that has coached the Ultimate Fighter, and a guy that had like an 8 or 9 fight win streak in the UFC.
Yeah,
so
at one point, George Sotiropoulos was 1 fight away from getting a UFC lightweight title shot. Obviously, that didn't happen, but definitely a fantastic outing for our next guest, who I have on the line right now, KJ Nunes. KJ, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Going good. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me on.
Right on. So let's talk about this. It's your first UFC win. So first of all, I want to say congratulations. It was a great fight. How are you feeling today?
So great, man. Thanks for the compliment. I feel good. I'm back in San Diego and getting back into my routine. I'm really happy with the performance and the win. Tough opponent.
Yeah, very tough opponent, man, and you did really good. I was really hoping we were going to see that KJ Nunes knockout, man, but you hit him with some real heavy shots. You did really good. How good does it feel to get that first win out of the way?
Feels great. Of course, I always go for the knockout, but this fight and a lot of my fights in the past, whenever I smell, like they're about to go down, and I rush forward and I start swinging to the fences, these guys get right under me, take me down, and that could change the whole momentum of the fight, especially with a guy that's so dangerous like George on the ground,
Yeah, for sure. So is that something that you kind of changed going into this fight? You're kind of learning from that and adapting?
Hopefully we'll see for the next one, I was going to mix it up, but this was a win, it's a no-lose situation for me. I had to win this one, so I couldn't get in there. And whenever he got rocked, go for the total kill, because if he got under me and took me down, that changed the whole momentum of the fight. So, yeah, we'll see. Getting better. Always trying to get better for every fight.
Okay. As far as the lead up into this fight, and in hindsight, we probably should have had you on the show before your fight. We were just off the air for about a month, and we're getting back to it, just last Friday. But did you feel really good going into this fight? Maybe better than the last couple fights, or change anything up?
Yeah, I felt really good. I changed camps. I did the first part of my camp at Mark Munoz Gym, Rain, and then the last part of my camp I did it down in San Diego at Alliance, Eric Del Bureau. So it was I got around a lot of great sparring partners and guys that are really at top level, and it made me have to do a lot of things I didn't want to do, which was great. And I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
You said it yourself. I mean, or Pedro said you hit him with some big shots. I mean, were you really surprised that he didn't go down from some of those shots? Because not a lot of people take your punches. I mean, you've dropped some of the best guys in not just that division, but the division above you. So were you kind of surprised that he hung in there with all those shots, or?
No, it's good, man. He's a top guy. He's got a great chin. He came to bring the fight, and I couldn't get off my game plan, which is good for me. I stayed on my game plan, didn't rush in, and worked out good for me.
So, now that you kind of got this under your belt now, do you feel that, you can kind of settle in now and maybe, I don't want to just say, kind of like sit back and relax, because obviously that's not the case at all, but do you feel like it's just kind of good to get that one win out the way and kind of get the momentum, get momentum building to kind of get a streak going and make some noise in the division?
Definitely. It always feels good to get a win. I worked really hard in this fight, training up to the fight. And it just takes, it always takes pressure off you when you win a fight. So I'm ready to get back in there. And, I'm always looking to get better and add things to my game so I can be a better fighter. So, yeah, I'm really excited. Definitely makes me more motivated to get back in there.
So, you're a guy that's always been a winner with everything you do. You go into, you've been successful in boxing, you're successful in MMA. You've always been you've done very well and excelled at everything you've done. How difficult was it to go into the fight with a UFC fight with a 3-fight losing streak? Did your mentality change at all going into the fight, or were you just like, no, I'm still going to do everything the same, and it's just, I'm really hungry. I'm just hungry for the win.
No, definitely I changed up a lot of things. My camp, who I'm training with. And you have to, change things up to, get a different result. So, and a lot of my losses came from some top guys too. So, at the top level, you make one mistake and you can lose a fight. With myself, it was, if I can't be at the top, I didn't want to do it, but I'm getting better, and I won the fight, so I'm looking to get back to
All right.
better with the training and be competitive. I want to make sure I can compete with the guys at this level. If not, then it's, I would just be a punching bag in there.
Makes sense. Now, I heard I was reading an interview the other day, I think, and said that if you had lost that fight, you were going to retire. Is that true? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, if you lose a couple fights in UFC, that cut you, and if I can't compete at the biggest organization at the top level, then why keep doing it? It's not like I lost one, I got cut, and fighting the top guys in the world. I need to change something up, do something different to compete with these guys. If I can't figure the answer, well, then why keep doing it, So, obviously this camp, I changed some stuff up, and I had the success in this fight, so we're going to keep moving forward and just keep getting better. So I'm excited to still be in the game, and I love the sport, and I'm still ready to put on great fights.
All right, now let me ask you this, KJ. While you're preparing for this fight, and you're kind of in the midst of your little three-fight slump that you were in, I just kind of go back to the times of the Elite XC days where you were the lightweight champion there, right? But the division was at 160 pounds, and then you go and you look at your Diaz and Strikeforce when you contested that fight at welterweight, and you held your own. You lost that fight against Nick, the second fight, but you held your own. Were there ever any thoughts of maybe going up a weight, that maybe lightweight, maybe you're drawing too much out, maybe you're cutting too much weight or anything like that, because you seem to have maybe 160 is the better weight for you? I'm just curious. I don't really know.
It's just tough, the whole diet, the whole camp. I feel like at 5'10", that's pretty low weight to come in at, especially if you want to stay strong at weights. So it's really just a whole math, the nutrition and what you're taking in for the couple months of the fight. Super, super hard. So, would I love to fight at higher weight? Yeah. Right. Let's say it won't be 5, and we'll see what the future holds,
Yeah, makes sense. I think, just coming from an outsider, I'm not a fighter, or I'm not a coach or anything like that. But I think that maybe 170, in the future might not be a bad idea. I don't know if you have heavy hands. Those guys like to throw and they like to eat punches. They're not as fast as the small. You can probably be competitive there, I would think.
It takes a lot out of you, the weight cut. Most definitely. I think it takes a lot of people. So it's got to be more on the nutrition before the fights. You don't have to cut so much weight and get gassed out.
Right. So let's see here. When would you want to return? Do you have any ideas? You're looking to take a little bit of time off, or you were looking to get right back to action, kind of build off this momentum that you got, or what's the plan?
I'm going to just take a couple weeks off. Actually going right now to Santa Barbara with my family. We're going to relax, enjoy the weekend, go back to work on Monday, take a few weeks off, and get back to the gym later in November and enjoy the holidays. And I'm sure they'll be calling for something in the first quarter of next year.
So is that the hardest part about, or one of the hardest parts about preparing for these fights and kind of going from camp to camp, is keeping the weight down and sticking with that nutrition? Because, again, you're like you were just talking about, the weight cut's always tough, but keeping the nutrition and getting your weight down so that you can make that cut is also a battle in itself, is it not?
Most definitely. It's probably one of the hardest parts of the whole game. Most definitely, hands down. It's just so tough, especially if you're like eating good food like myself.
Well, so how does that work for you? Who's the one preparing all the meals, or is that all portioned out for you to make 155? Is it that strict of a dieting for you to get down there?
It's strict and it's tough. Myself, we have a plan that I cook up and make every meal plan. I had somebody make me a schedule. My wife helps me out a lot with the eating, but it's tough to do that long a time. When you're a breaking point, you want to just eat whatever you want to eat sometimes, and drink a beer, have a glass of wine. You just don't really care. It's a mental breakdown sometimes too. So you gotta have a good balance, I guess you could say. But it gets tough as it gets tougher, as it gets closer to the fight.
You think a same-day weigh-in would work, or or you think guys would just be coming into the fights just drawn out even worse?
Say again, I hear you.
Do you think a same-day weigh-in would even work in MMA, or is that something it could really only work in like grappling competitions and things like that?
Not going to work. It could not work in MMA. I can feel the effects already. 24 hours trying to recover. I'm already a little bit winded. You can see other people in other fights. It takes a lot of energy out. So, yeah, I don't think that would ever happen.
Yeah, right. It'd be too rough. All right, KJ. Well. I think we're gonna wrap it up here, man. I want to just say congratulations on your first official UFC win, man. I think that's awesome. Obviously, we're always. I've been a fan for a long time, and BJPen.com's been behind you for a while. So just really good to see you go out there and live up to the potential that we know you have, and finally get get a W in the octagon, man. So good job, bro. Good job, and thank you.
Hey, I want to say thank you, guys. I appreciate being so quiet. I'm driving my son to sleep in the car. So yeah, thanks for having me on, and look forward to the next fight.
Right on, KJ. We'll be in touch, man. And enjoy your victory, bro.
All right, fellas. Have a good day.
All right, you too. King James, is that what his name? King Carl James? Did you say King Carl?
Yeah, King Carl James. KJ Nunes, man. I was really serious about that because he came from his history back in the Elite XC days where he was, a really hot prospect. I mean, he looked good in all of his fights, even in the fights where he lost, like you brought up the Nick Diaz fight. He didn't look bad in that fight. Nick just beat him.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't look bad. He didn't look fantastic, but he was competitive in that fight. He got his jaw broken in that fight, but I mean, he was competitive.
He came there to fight, though. He fought a fight. He did more than Carlos Condit did.
Yeah.
It's just one of the things like, I think that if he can just piece it all together, that he can really be one of the contenders in that division. That he can really step it up and have some great fights in there. I think stylistically, he's exactly what the UFC likes.
I mean, here's the thing. I think with KJ, he has a really good wrestling defense, right, as far as takedowns go, and he has powerful hands. I keep waiting to see those hands at work, though, and see him put somebody on their ass. We haven't seen it for a while, but we know it's there, you know. So hopefully the UFC fans, maybe the new breed of fans who don't really know what KJ Noons is really all about, they get to see that from him in his next fight, because it is something to behold when he actually lands rocks, you know, on people's faces, or bricks, I guess is the term. Lands bricks on people's faces. It's pretty cool, pretty impressive.
Yeah, really, absolutely. He does have dynamite in his hands.
All right.
You want to go break down the card?
Yeah, let's do this, man. We've had a long night, everybody. Thanks for... We got through these 5 wonderful guests. If you missed any of the interviews, we will have them up on our official YouTube channel probably by the end of the night, and on bjpen.com as well on our radio tab in the main menu bar. So check it back if you missed any of the fights. We did have Sergio Pettis, Hector Lombard, Joey Beltran, Anthony Pettis, and KJ Noons on. Right now, as we're getting ready to close it out, we're going to go over, like we always do every week, our fight breakdown. There's actually 2 fights tomorrow, bro. I don't know if you're aware of this. I'm sure you are. We have World Series of Fighting 6, and we have UFC Fight Night 30, right? Is it 30, I think? Munoz versus Machida. I'm not really excited about the World Series of Fighting fight than I am the UFC fight. Maybe that's because we've been featuring Josh Bergman blogs for the last 5 weeks on bjpen.com in the lead up to his main event tomorrow night on NBC Sports. But outside of the main event and the co-main event for the UFC tomorrow at Fight Night 30 in Manchester, not too much to see, in my opinion. I think that the Cole Miller-Andy Ogle fight, I think it's on the prelims, that's a good fight. Other than that one, the bulk of the action is going to be in the main and co-main. What do you think, George?
I think there's a couple fights that can be fun. I think that the Manuel and Jimmo fight can actually be a fun fight. I think that Pearson and Melvin can turn out to be a good fight. This card is kind of creeping in really quietly. There hasn't been a lot. I don't feel like it's been really heavily promoted and shoved down my throat. To me, it kind of feels like I know that it's happening because that's kind of my job and I'm in the mix, and so that's why But I feel like there's really no other buzz for the fights themselves, but that some of them might surprise you. Those are 2 heavy hitters. And there's a good chance that they're going to come in there banging out. Somebody's going to fall. So in that sense, it'll be fun. I mean, the main event is intriguing in the sense that it's got a fight between 2 teammates. And I've trained with Cole Miller, so I'm obviously interested in that fight. But there's some interesting fights on here, but it doesn't have the star power that we're kind of usually looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is they're putting some British guys on the card, obviously, right? Because it's in the UK, which can't really hate them for that. It's awesome to do that. This card lost a lot of steam for me when Bisping had to withdraw. Originally, I think if people at home remember, it was Michael Bisping and Mark Munoz in the main event, and there was trash talk going back and forth, and that was exciting. And then Bisping got hurt, and he had to pull out, and they shifted Machida off of his fight with Tim Kennedy into this main event. We didn't get any more of the trash talk. We lost all the build-up for the fight because, as George alluded to, Mark Munoz and Lyoto Machida do train frequently. In fact, Mark Munoz's gym is right up the street from me, right? As I've said a million times on the show before, and I have a lot of friends that train over there. And ironically, while Machida, Tim Kennedy, and Mark Munoz was training for Bisping, they were both training together for their respective fights. Machida was getting ready to face a wrestler, so who better than Mark? And Munoz was getting ready to face a striker, so Machida is his best tool. So those guys were in the gym, grinding it out, training together every day as part of each other's camps, and then boom, they had to break all that up because they're fighting. So that's an interesting storyline that's not being told out there in the media. Nobody's really talking about that, but I know that to be true. And I know that sources, being what they are, they said it was weird. It was really weird when that fight got announced because they were just training together and all that stuff, and nobody really knew how to take it or how to feel. That's just coming from within one of the camps. So Anyways, let's just break it down, man. Well, we won't do the whole card unless you want to do the whole card. I don't know if you're looking at it, but let's just go. We'll start off at the prelims online. It's Cole Miller and Andy Ogle. I'm skipping 2 fights because they're whatever. We don't need to waste our listeners' time. So I know you're going for Cole Miller. Andy Ogle's a tough dude, man. I remember him on Ultimate Fighter. Has a lot of heart. Cole Miller is just going to be way too much for him, though. I don't even really. It's worth like breaking down too in depth because Cole, experience, skill, it's going to beat him.
Yeah, I agree. Cole's just going to be too much. I think that he's just going to handle anything that Andy throws. He's just better everywhere. A lot of reach, experience, submission game, etc., etc. I'm going Cole Miller.
Okay, let's go ahead and move up a couple more bouts. Al Iaquinta versus Hallman. Iaquinta, I'm surprised that he is buried on the prelims on a free card. I don't know. I think that he would have been better served. Same with would have been better served on the main card. Probably would have been a little bit more interesting had they booked these two fights. I think Iaquinta is a hot prospect. Pretty sure he beats Hallman tomorrow night.
Yeah, Iaquinta's got dynamite in his hands. Comes from a great camp. I'm going Al. Yeah, he's looked good, man. He's looked really good. I think he's just gonna look better and better.
Yep. The next fight is the main card. It's Harris versus Lineker. I don't really know too much about either fighter. I'm not even gonna lie. I probably should, but I don't. Do you have an opinion on that fight?
Well, John Lineker is a good fighter, and it's tough. I was going to pick Lineker, but he missed weight, and I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. I don't really know if what kind of shape he's going to be in. How sucked out he was, and I'm going to go Lineker. Regardless, he did miss weight. I think he was like 128.5 or something.
Wasn't this his second missed weight in a row? I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one for him, man.
Yeah.
I really think it is, but I'm gonna go with Lineker. I might eat my words, but I'm gonna go with Lineker.
Okay, I'll go with what I know. I go with Lineker because I don't really know the other guy. Sakara and Musok. I don't really know that. I don't really know these guys. I know Sakara obviously, but I don't know his opponent, so kind of slacking.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to go on because I don't believe I don't think Nicholas has fought in the UFC, has he? I'm going to go with Sakara. I think just the experience. You're talking about a guy with 10 or 12 fights, and Sakara is pretty battle tested. Yeah, I'm going to go with the ATT guy.
Okay. As you can tell, guys, we're very enthused about this fight. Okay, this whole night of fights right here. It's really exciting. Tune in tomorrow on, what is it, Fox Sports 2? Anyways, okay, something we do know a little bit about is Manua and Jimmo. I've been watching Ryan Jimmo since he was the MFC champ. I never really was that impressed with him. I didn't think he would make it in the UFC. The UFC actually signed him, but when he had that huge win streak that he was on, you kind of couldn't deny him a shot in the UFC. He came out, he performed like a 10-second knockout in his debut. It was awesome. Still not that impressed with him. I'm just going to go with Manua.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. I think this is like this is a tough fight because guys hit heavy and can land, and it changes the complexion of the fight completely. I think this is going to be a pretty decent fight. I think it's going to be fun to watch at least. I think to make it fun, I'll go the opposite.
Okay, so you're going Jimmo. Now, a fight really worth talking about. Right, the co-main event. We should have just skipped here to this one right here. Is Ross Pearson versus Melvin Gillard, 2 lightweight fighters. They're both stand-ups. They're both stand-up guys. They like to throw. They like to bang. They both bring heavy shots. You have to give the power advantage to Melvin Gillard. I don't think there's anybody in the lightweight division that quite packs as much power in his fist as Melvin does. in that regard. Ross Pearson is doing phenomenal things for himself right now. I think he's really hit his stride. I just kind of feel that it's his time. And Melvin, despite all his potential, he's more of a journeyman at this point. He can't really get on a roll anymore. At least we haven't seen it yet. I do believe he has the potential. He has the potential. But will he ever live up to his potential? I don't know. I'm a Melvin Guillard fan because his fights are always exciting. I'm also a Ross Pearson fan for the same reason. I just give a slight edge to Ross Pearson as long as he can stay out of the way of that Melvin's going to be thrown at his face, and I actually think he can. I think he's skilled enough to be able to do that and implement his game more so than Guillard. I'm picking him probably by decision.
Tough fight. Ross has looked pretty good his last few outings. But with that said, I don't know that. I mean, finishing Ryan Couture is it's just not the same as finishing Melvin Guillard. Melvin Guillard is also a legit, big, strong, athletic 155-pounder, and Ross Pearson, I think, has fought a lot of fights at 145. I'm going to go with Melvin, and it's probably the only time I've picked Melvin. But I just think that anybody who just wants to stand, for the most part, anybody who wants to stand and just kind of have that fight with type of fight that Melvin wants to have is probably not doing themselves any favors. So I'll go with Guillard.
Okay, there we go. We disagree on that one. Machida and Mark Munoz. When I think about this fight, I think naturally I ask myself the simple question: would this be a fight? Would this even be a question of who wins this fight if it was contested in the 205-pound division at light heavyweight? Because, as we know, both Machida and Mark Munoz at one time in their career were light heavyweights. So both at middleweight, I don't really see much of a difference. I think Machida is just too much for Mr. Munoz. I like Mark as a fighter. He's a very talented guy. Machida is better, I believe. His strengths are Mark's weaknesses, and vice versa. But Machida doesn't really get taken down too much, and I think that's where Mark has to take this fight to win. I just don't see it happening enough times to be able to beat Lyoto.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. Mark is an excellent wrestler, but the only thing is that the style of wrestling that he's brought into MMA has not really been the style that lends itself to like just blasting through guys like a Phil Davis, a George St. Pierre, a Ryan Bader, somebody like that. He kind of grabs people, gets them in the clinch, pushes them up against the fence, or takes him down from the clinch and things like that. Machida is very hard to get a hold of. He's also notoriously done extremely well against a lot of wrestlers. Dan Henderson, Ryan Bader, and, Rashad Evans come to mind. And I know people will bring up Phil Davis, but really, that fight was did he really lose? It's pretty good. I mean, moderately, and he did pretty well in most of those departments.
Yeah.
And Phil Davis, again, I think Phil Davis is a better wrestler than Mark Munoz.
That's right.
Again, these are two high-level fighters, but I think Machida has an advantage here. I'm going Lyoto Machida. I don't see a finish. I think it's going to go all three, but I'm going Machida.
Okay, there we go. Now let's talk about World Series of Fighting 6 tomorrow night as well. Actually, don't know, these two events don't overlap each other, since Fight Night 30s in the United Kingdom, it actually airs, I think it starts at like noon in the Pacific and 3 on the East Coast. So set your DVRs right if you're not going to be home in the daytime to watch a UFC fight. And at night, NBC Sports, we have World Series of Fighting taking place from Miami, so we'll be able to watch both events. we'll have the prelims, I believe, for both events on bjpen.com as well, the full prelims card. So check us out if you want to see some free fights online. I'm just going to pick apart this card real quick. There are names fighting for World Series tomorrow night, and I actually think, like I said earlier, this card is better than the UFC's fight, outside of the main event at least. Picking it apart, we go Jacob Volkman versus Luis Firmino. Firmino, for those who don't know, he's a Pride veteran. He's fought all over the place at Dream, international shows, and he's done really well. He's amassed a 16-6 record. Jacob Volkman, obviously the former UFC lightweight fighter who is no longer with the promotion, but I think Jacob takes this. I don't really think it's going to be an exciting fight because most of Mr. Volkman's fights are not that exciting. Although if you did hear our interview weeks ago, he did say he's been working on his boxing a lot, and he was looking forward to trying to show that off. So maybe we get some glimmers of excitement from him. But either way, Volkman, he takes this fight.
Yeah, it may not be very exciting. I don't think it's a fight. It's a fight that he could lose too, in my opinion. I think it's possible that he may overlook the skill level of this guy. I happen to know that he is a really skilled fighter. So we'll see. I think Volkman narrowly has an advantage, and I really do mean narrowly.
Okay. Next fight I want to talk about, Miguel Torres is returning to fighting, which is great, and he's out of bantamweight. He's actually fighting at featherweight tomorrow against Pablo Alfonso. Now, both fighters are good. Miguel Torres definitely has the experience, definitely has more to prove, and I do like him outside of bantamweight. He's always been real drawn out at 135, fighting at 145, which is probably better suited for his frame, and I look for him to return to the win column.
Yeah, I had to agree. I mean, I think Miguel is going to be able to get it done. I don't know what training has been like recently, but I would think that even with a bad training camp, he'd be able to beat this guy. I just don't think that the experience and the high level competition is going to be too much.
Yeah. Okay. Next fight, and again, these are actually fights, right? These are actually fights we're seeing. Dan Lazon and Justin Gaethje, I think. Justin is undefeated, and he's been touted as a really hot prospect. Supposed to be a really good fighter, and I don't know if anybody was at the weigh-ins or happened to see the weigh-ins when we broadcast them on BJPen.com today. But these two got into it on stage. They were talking trash, and Dan, super aggressive up there actually with this guy. When it was time for stare downs, he wasn't really staring him down. He was just really right in the guy's grill, and kind of some bad blood going in there. Definitely picking Dan to win this fight. A Lozon brother, you can't really go wrong with picking a Lozon brother.
Yeah, that's again, man. It's a tough one. That guy's tough. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I love Danny, but I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm picking Justin.
Really? Why?
I just think the type of fight that it's going to be, that he's going to be like, Danny has these really like knockdown, drag-out fights, but he gets tired quickly when he has those, and I think that could hurt him. And a lot of times when he gets amped up for these fights, it backfires. I mean, he has a hell of a first round, or the first part of the round, but it just a lot of times doesn't end well. So we'll see.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, it's a good fight. Again, Justin is a really highly touted prospect. He's undefeated. It's definitely a stern test for Danny. But again, it's a Lozon brother. Man, look at these fights. These are way better than these are better than UFC fights. These are better than the UFC cards. There's actually stuff to talk about. Next fight is John Fitch versus Marcelo Alfaya. I think it's an easy pick, Fitch. I don't even think Marcelo made weight today. I could be wrong. I don't think he did, though. And Fitch is going to do it. Fitch does. I think that he's lost a couple, and he's due, man. We're not going to see the demise of Fitch. He's not going to go away that easy. He's going to win this fight.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I just don't see Fitch dropping another fight over here. He may not be a finish, but I think it'll be a win.
Yep. And the co-main event, it's Marlon Moraes versus Carson Beebe. And for those who don't know, Marlon is a badass. Like, no joke. This dude is sick. I watched him fight live a couple months back and thoroughly impressed by his poise and fighting ability and everything that this kid is. He's a freaking phenom. He belongs in the UFC. I believe he would be a contender in that division. Super talented guy. Carson Beebe also very solid, very good. And the promotion, World Series of Fighting, they know it's his time, and they're building him up. And he's definitely the favorite to take it, and I can't disagree.
Yeah, I'm going Marlon Moraes, man. He really just looks awesome. He's fun to watch fight.
Okay, last fight is the World Series of Fighting 6th main event. Josh Berkman and Steve Carl. I'm not going against our brother Josh. He's been blogging for us at bjpen.com for the last 5 weeks. He's probably got a camera in his face right now, blogging as we're on the show. We'll have the video up next week on bjpen.com to see his journey through the fight week and through the fight night and all that stuff. I think it's his time too. You know, as cliche as that is to say that back to back on both predictions, it's Berkman's time. Carl, awesome fighter. He's a really dangerous opponent, and that's what Josh needs to excel. And Josh Berkman will be crowned the inaugural World Series of Fighting welterweight champion, in my opinion, tomorrow night.
I think Steve Carl is a great opponent. I think that he is very underrated, and he's on a hell of a win streak. With that said, it's the same thing I said to Josh when we had him on the show. He has had a much stiffer journey during his win streak than Steve Carl has. And I think it could be a good fight. I think it could be competitive. I think it could be a fun fight to watch. But I just think that Berkman has hit a new stride in his career and his training and his focus, his mental focus, his preparation, and how he's putting the whole thing together. And, I think he's going to get it done tomorrow night.
Oh, girl's going to hate me all day while she's forced to watch MMA for almost 24 hours straight. That's okay. She's an awesome woman. She loves me, so she probably really won't hate me that much. I'm excited for tomorrow night. What else can I say? I don't have anything. George?
No, man. Let's wrap it up. It was good. We had some great guests. We broke down the fights. And everybody, if you missed it, we'll have the audio back up. We'll definitely have some headlines and some stories and some transcripts of the audio out there soon. So definitely check it out. We'll be back next week.
We will be back next week. George, actually, before we go, what do you have going on next week, man? What do you have going on in the immediate future, bro?
Let's see. Next week I'll be back in town to hang out with you for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was there a few weeks ago. Coming back, we'll do another live show, I guess.
Well, they're always live, but we're gonna do it you and me in person.
We'll do it in the immediate. We'll do it in each other's presence.
Yeah.
In the same area. But yeah, I am competing at the Jiu-Jitsu World Championships next weekend. I will be there. Chukao, he will be cornering me. So if you are there, come say hey. I will be busy about to strangle a couple of people in my division.
That's right, guys. You heard it here first. George Matthews, host of BJPen.com Radio, is going to be competing in the World Jiu-Jitsu Championships in Long Beach, California next week. And he's flying out to make that happen. He's on the title hunt. Maybe we get George to blog for us. I don't know. Tweet us if you think that's a good idea. Maybe George can do some Berkman blogs.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Road to the title, man. Road to the title.
Road to the title over the next 5 days. Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. It'll be a cool experience, So yeah, I'm definitely coming there to win. So the people in my division, if you're listening, I've been training a lot.
That's right. And I'll be there. Me and Amber, we're gonna come. We're gonna support George. We'll take some pictures. We'll take some video, and we'll make it happen. And that's our show. Again, if you missed it, we had Sergio Pettis, Anthony Pettis, Hector Lombard, Joey Beltran, and KJ Nunes. We'll have the archives up as soon listening. Have a good night.